Have you ever thought about how much control you truly have over your body, your life, and your future? It might surprise you to learn that you possess an incredible ability to transform your physical and emotional state by simply harnessing the power of your thoughts and decisions. What if I told you that you can create new cells, rewire your brain, and command your body to shift in ways you've never imagined, all through the power of your mind? This is not some far-fetched idea or theory. It's backed by cutting-edge neuroscience and quantum principles. We're going to explore how you can step into that power, decide to change, and watch your body and life transform before your very eyes. Let's dive deeper into one of the most fascinating ideas in modern neuroscience: the profound and transformative connection between your mind and body. It's no longer just a metaphor. Science has shown that the thoughts you think, the emotions you feel, and the actions you take don't merely live in your mind. They resonate through every cell of your body, shaping your physical reality. It's not just about mental health or abstract concepts of consciousness. It's about real, tangible changes happening in your body because of the way you think and feel. At the core of this understanding is the concept of neuroplasticity, which is one of the most revolutionary ideas in the field of neuroscience. Neuroplasticity is the brain's incredible ability to reorganize itself, forming new connections and even creating new neurons. This process occurs every time you think, feel, or act. The brain is not static. It is alive, adaptable, and constantly changing. The idea that the brain is capable of such transformation challenges the old belief that once the brain is fully developed, it remains set in its ways. The truth is that you have the power to continually reshape your brain and, by extension, your life. But the mind is not a separate entity from the body. In fact, they are intimately connected, constantly influencing each other. When you experience an emotion, whether it's excitement, stress, anger, or joy, your brain releases specific chemicals into your bloodstream. These chemicals are called neurotransmitters, and they can either invigorate your body, helping you feel energized and focused, or they can deplete you, creating stress, fatigue, and other physical ailments. For example, when you feel stressed, your brain releases cortisol, which can elevate your blood pressure and suppress your immune system. On the other hand, emotions like gratitude or love trigger the release of dopamine and oxytocin, chemicals that promote healing and well-being. Now, here's the kicker. This process doesn't just happen in the short term. If you repeatedly experience certain emotions, those chemicals begin to fuse with your body's cells, creating a kind of chemical memory. Over time, if you are constantly reacting to situations from a place of fear, stress, or anger, those chemical patterns become deeply embedded in your cells, defining your physical state and influencing your behavior in ways that may not be serving you. This is why someone might feel stuck in a cycle of negativity or have difficulty moving beyond a traumatic event. Their body, through this emotional conditioning, becomes hardwired to react in specific ways, making it hard to break free. But the good news is that this same process of neuroplasticity and biochemical influence can work in your favor. The brain and body are adaptable systems. They can be reprogrammed. If you learn how to manage your thoughts and emotions, you can change the very chemical landscape of your body, creating a new reality for yourself. When you choose to interrupt old, negative emotional patterns and replace them with new, empowering ones, you are, quite literally, changing the cells of your body. You are creating new, healthier cells by changing your mindset. To truly transform, you must first understand one of the greatest challenges we face in personal growth: the tendency to live according to the patterns of our past. This phenomenon is not just psychological, it's neurological. When you wake up each day and allow your past experiences to dictate how you think, feel, and act, you are essentially repeating a loop of neural patterns that have been etched into your brain over the years. Your brain has created a network of neural connections that represent every person you know, every place you visit, every activity you do, and every thought you think. The moment you open your eyes in the morning, these neural pathways activate automatically, and you begin to think and feel according to your past experiences. This is what keeps most people stuck. They wake up, go through the same motions, and react to the same stimuli day in and day out. Their external environment, whether it's the people they interact with or the places they go, dictates their internal state. Their past experiences influence their present moment. In fact, the brain often becomes so accustomed to this routine that it resists anything new or unfamiliar. The result? You stay trapped in an endless cycle, repeating the same thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. The more you engage in this cycle, the more your body becomes conditioned to react in familiar ways, and this reinforces your identity. The key to breaking free from this cycle is to become aware of it. Awareness is the first step toward change. When you realize that you are living according to your past, you can begin to consciously choose to think differently. You must decide, in that moment, to break free from the gravitational pull of the past. This is where the process of creating new cells begins. When you consciously decide to think greater than your environment, when you step beyond the familiar and embrace the unknown, you open the door to transformation. What would happen if you could wake up each morning with a vision of the future that excites and inspires you? What if you could connect so deeply with this vision that it becomes a powerful force in your life? This is the essence of breaking free from the old self. It's about embodying the future version of yourself, one that is not limited by past experiences, current circumstances, or old beliefs. The key here is emotional connection. When you feel your future as though it is already happening, your brain begins to rewire itself. The brain no longer lives in the past, it begins to live in the future. At the heart of transformation is the ability to embody your future self in the present moment. This is not just a feel-good concept. It's grounded in the science of neuroplasticity and quantum physics. When you begin to visualize your future and connect emotionally with that vision, your brain and body start to believe that the future event is already happening. This is because your brain cannot differentiate between an experience you have in real life and one you vividly imagine. In both cases, your brain fires the same neurons and releases the same chemicals, creating a similar physiological state. Recent advancements in neuroscience show that your brain can change not only in response to your present circumstances but also based on your future intentions. By repeatedly visualizing your future self and emotionally connecting with that vision, your brain starts to rewire itself to align with the future you desire. This is where the magic of neuroplasticity comes into play. Your brain and body begin to look like the event you are imagining, as though it has already occurred. This principle is closely related to the concept of quantum potential. In quantum mechanics, everything exists as a field of potential, possibilities that have not yet materialized. When you tap into this quantum field through your thoughts and emotions, you collapse these possibilities into a specific reality. In other words, you begin to create the future by focusing on it emotionally and mentally. When you believe in a future that hasn't yet happened, you are tapping into this field of potential and bringing it into your present experience. However, the journey to embodying your future self is not without its challenges. The most significant challenge you will face is stepping into the unknown. Your brain is wired to seek familiarity and comfort. It prefers the known, even if the known is uncomfortable or unfulfilling. When you begin to break free from the old self and embrace the new, your brain will resist. It will tell you that change is hard, that the unknown is unsafe, and that you are better off staying where you are. But here's the truth. The only way to create a new reality is to step into the unknown. This is where the real transformation happens. You have to be willing to feel uncomfortable, to experience uncertainty, and to push through the resistance. It's in this space of discomfort that you will experience the death of the old self and the birth of the new. This process is not easy, but it is necessary. It is the process of stepping into the river of change, where the current will carry you toward a new version of yourself. Emotions are an integral part of the human experience. We feel joy, sorrow, anger, frustration, excitement, and everything in between. These emotional experiences shape our reality in ways we often don't fully comprehend. They are more than just fleeting sensations. They are powerful forces that shape not only our thoughts but also the physical state of our bodies. Emotions are the bridge between the mind and body, the link that connects our inner thoughts with our outward experiences. The science behind emotions reveals a complex biochemical process that profoundly influences how we feel, how we behave, and even how our bodies function. Understanding the power of emotions and how to reprogram them is a key to unlocking lasting transformation in your life. Every emotional experience we have is tied to a cascade of biochemical reactions that occur in the brain and throughout the body. When you react emotionally to an event, whether it's something joyful or stressful, your brain releases specific chemicals into your bloodstream. These chemicals, also known as neurotransmitters, serve as messengers that communicate the emotional state of the brain to the rest of the body. For example, when you experience fear or stress, your brain releases cortisol, the stress hormone, which triggers a physiological response. Your heart rate increases, your muscles tense, and your body enters a state of heightened alertness. On the other hand, when you experience positive emotions such as love, gratitude, or excitement, your brain releases dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin, which promote feelings of happiness, contentment, and bonding. These chemical shifts don't just affect your mood, they influence your body's function, energy levels, and overall health. This is why you can feel energized after experiencing a moment of joy or excitement, or drained and exhausted after a stressful event. Emotions are not just abstract mental states, they are deeply intertwined with the body's biochemistry. And here's the crucial insight. You can actively influence this process by managing your emotional state. When you consciously choose to feel differently, you can alter the chemical composition of your body, creating a new physiological response. In essence, you can train your body to feel better, healthier, and more aligned with the emotional states you want to experience. What if you could feel gratitude, joy, or love not just when life is going well, but at any given moment, regardless of external circumstances? This is not just a lofty ideal. It's entirely possible, and it's rooted in the power of emotional reprogramming. When you begin to consciously decide to embody positive emotional states, your body starts to reflect these emotions. Over time, this process of emotional conditioning leads to a profound transformation in both your mind and your body. The first step in emotional reprogramming is recognizing that your emotional state is not something fixed or dictated solely by your external circumstances. Too often, we let our environment determine how we feel. We let the events of the day, interactions with others, or even the weather dictate our mood. But here's the empowering truth. You don't have to wait for something outside of you to change in order for you to feel better. You have the ability to choose how you feel in any given moment. This is where the practice of emotional reprogramming comes in. By consciously deciding to feel joy, gratitude, love, or any other positive emotion, you send a signal to your brain and body to release the corresponding chemicals that will support those emotions. For example, when you think about something you're grateful for, your brain releases dopamine and serotonin, the feel-good chemicals. This not only elevates your mood but also activates neural pathways associated with positive thinking, which helps you stay in a more empowered emotional state throughout the day. But the real magic happens when you consistently practice this emotional reprogramming. As you repeatedly choose to feel positive emotions, you begin to create new neural pathways in your brain, pathways that are associated with these elevated emotional states. Over time, these new neural connections become stronger, and the brain starts to default to these positive emotional states more naturally. This is how you change your default emotional response. It's as though you're training your body to recognize these positive emotions as its baseline state. Imagine a person who has spent years feeling stressed, anxious, or negative. Over time, their body has become conditioned to these emotions. They may even start to see stress as part of their identity. But if that person starts practicing emotional reprogramming, they can slowly shift their emotional baseline. By consciously choosing to feel gratitude, peace, or excitement, their body begins to align with these emotions, creating a new and healthier default emotional state. Now, let's take this concept even further. Emotions don't just influence how we feel mentally, they have a direct impact on our physical body, down to the cellular level. When you choose to feel an elevated emotion, such as joy or gratitude, you are essentially sending new signals to your cells, telling them to regenerate in a way that reflects this emotional shift. Cells in the body are constantly renewing themselves, and their regeneration is influenced by the biochemical environment created by your emotions. For example, research has shown that positive emotions can stimulate the production of healthier cells and support the immune system. On the other hand, chronic negative emotions, such as prolonged stress, can suppress immune function and accelerate aging. This is because the body's biochemical response to chronic stress, such as the release of cortisol, can impair cellular regeneration, leading to cellular damage and accelerated aging. In contrast, when you choose positive emotions, such as love or gratitude, your body experiences a more balanced hormonal response, which supports the growth and repair of healthy cells. This phenomenon is a direct consequence of the mind-body connection. Your emotional state acts as a blueprint for your body's cellular function. If you want to heal from the inside out, you must first change your emotional state. By consciously embodying elevated emotions, you are signaling your body to produce new, healthier cells. This is why emotional healing is such a powerful tool for physical transformation. The key to unlocking this transformation lies in the power of decision. In any moment, you can decide to feel differently, to think differently, and to live differently. But here's the catch. This decision isn't a one-time event. It's a decision you must make every single day. Every time you wake up, you must decide to think greater than your environment, to feel beyond your circumstances, and to live as though the future you desire is already here. This is the essence of mindful decision-making. It's about choosing how you want to feel, regardless of what's going on around you. For example, if you wake up feeling stressed because of something that happened the day before, you have the power to decide to let go of that stress and choose a more peaceful or optimistic emotion. This decision is not about ignoring reality. It's about choosing to shift your internal state, regardless of external circumstances. When you make the decision to think and feel differently, you are not just changing your mood, you are changing your body. You are giving your cells new instructions to regenerate in alignment with the emotional state you are choosing. And as you continue to make this decision daily, you begin to create a new emotional and physical reality. This is how you begin to reprogram your body. One of the most important aspects of this process is consistency. It's not enough to decide to feel positive emotions once and expect immediate results. Reprogramming your body through emotional transformation takes time and effort. It requires you to make the decision to feel better, to choose positive emotions, day after day, until it becomes your new baseline. As you practice emotional reprogramming, you may encounter resistance. Your old emotional patterns may try to resurface, and it may feel uncomfortable or unnatural to choose positivity, especially in difficult situations. However, this resistance is a sign of growth. It's an indication that you are stepping outside your comfort zone and creating new neural pathways in your brain. Over time, as you consistently make the decision to embody positive emotions, your body will begin to adapt, and the resistance will diminish. Emotional resilience is the ability to bounce back from challenges and maintain a positive emotional state even in the face of adversity. Building this resilience requires practice, patience, and self-compassion. But the more you commit to emotional reprogramming, the more resilient you will become. Your emotional state will no longer be determined by external circumstances. It will be a product of your conscious decisions. When you make the conscious decision to change, a powerful shift begins within you. This decision is the spark that sets everything in motion, the starting point for an entirely new version of yourself. However, the key to truly transforming your life lies in what happens next: repetition and consistency. Transformation doesn't happen overnight, and it certainly doesn't happen by simply making one single decision. It is a continuous process, one that requires daily commitment, effort, and the willingness to show up, even when the road feels difficult or the results aren't immediately visible. In this exploration of repetition and consistency, we'll delve deeper into why they are so essential to transformation, how you can integrate them into your life, and how they eventually become the tools that align your thoughts, actions, and emotions with the version of yourself you desire to become. This journey, while challenging, is profoundly rewarding, as it allows you to create lasting change that is both internal and external. At its core, repetition is about creating new habits. The process of personal transformation can be likened to learning a new skill, like playing a musical instrument or speaking a new language. In the beginning, the new task feels uncomfortable and awkward. You might struggle to get the notes right or find yourself lost in a sea of unfamiliar words. But with time and repetition, the skill becomes easier, and eventually, it becomes second nature. This is because repetition leads to the formation of new neural pathways in the brain. Neuroscience tells us that when we repeatedly engage in a specific activity, whether it's thinking a new thought, practicing a new behavior, or embodying a new emotion, the brain strengthens the neural connections that support that activity. It's like carving a new pathway through a dense forest. At first, the path is overgrown and difficult to navigate. But with repeated use, the path becomes clearer, and walking along it becomes easier. When you make the decision to change and then commit to that decision every day, you are literally rewiring your brain. The old, habitual thought patterns and behaviors that once defined you begin to fade as new, empowering ones take root. This is why transformation requires consistency. Without repetition, the new neural pathways will remain weak, and the brain will default to its previous patterns. But with repetition, the new pathways grow stronger, and over time, they become your default response. Consistency is the foundation upon which repetition rests. It's one thing to repeat an action once or twice. It's another to show up every day, rain or shine, and continue to practice the behaviors that will lead you to your transformation. Consistency is the bridge between intention and actualization. Without it, you may be motivated in the short term, but you will struggle to create lasting change. In the same way, consistency in personal transformation means showing up for your growth every day. It means committing to the actions, thoughts, and emotions that align with the person you are becoming, even when it feels uncomfortable or when results seem distant. At first, you might encounter resistance. The old patterns of thought and behavior are strong and deeply embedded, and they may not be easily released. But it is through consistently practicing new behaviors, even when it feels challenging, that the transformation starts to take root. So, why is consistency so important? Consistency isn't about doing the same thing over and over. It's about conditioning your brain and body to respond in new ways. It's about replacing old, ingrained habits with new ones that align with your desired transformation. As you practice new thoughts, behaviors, and emotions consistently, your brain begins to recognize them as your new default. Your nervous system plays a pivotal role in this process. The nervous system is responsible for processing and transmitting information throughout the body. When you repeatedly engage in a new thought pattern or behavior, your nervous system learns to interpret and respond to that new behavior as if it is familiar and natural. The more often you practice something, the more your nervous system adjusts, eventually making the new behavior feel effortless and automatic. While repetition and consistency are vital for creating change, there is one more crucial element to personal transformation: experience. Knowledge alone does not create lasting transformation. You can read books, attend seminars, and gain all the intellectual understanding you need, but it's through embodying your new behaviors, emotions, and thoughts that real change occurs. The power of embodiment lies in experiencing your transformation firsthand. This is where the practice of feeling it to heal it comes into play. Once you decide to change and commit to the repetition and consistency of that change, you begin to integrate these new practices into your daily life. You don't just think differently, you feel differently. You don't just act differently, you become a new person. Experience is the key to truly conditioning your mind and body. When you embody the new version of yourself, when you feel empowered, successful, calm, or loving, your body begins to accept this as your new reality. It's no longer just a thought in your mind, it's a felt experience in your body. This is when the magic of transformation truly happens. You are no longer just striving for change, you are living the change. For example, consider someone who is working to cultivate more confidence. At first, they may practice affirmations or visualizations of themselves as confident and capable. However, it is only when they embody confidence, when they take actions, speak with conviction, and stand tall, that the transformation becomes real. The more they experience themselves as confident, the more their brain and body will wire themselves to feel and behave confidently in all areas of life.